When Apple made the MacBook Neo official on March 4, the tech world could not stop talking about that price tag, $599 for a MacBook. It was practically unheard of, and it dominated conversations across the laptop community for the rest of the week. Even Steven Sinofsky, who led Windows during a pivotal era from 2009 to 2012, took to social media to call the Neo a paradigm-shifting computer that is not the kind of language someone like Sinofsky throws around lightly. So when Nirav Patel, the founder of Framework, decided to buy one, he was not just curious, he had a specific purpose in mind. Patel wanted to put the MacBook Neo side by side with Framework's own laptop 12. The comparison made sense. Both machines target the same territory, that sub-$1,000 space, where you are supposed to get a computer you can actually love, not just tolerate. Patel's company has built its entire identity around repairability. You buy a Framework laptop once, and then you swap out parts as you need them. It is designed to grow with you, rather than become obsolete. So when he sat down to spend 33 minutes tearing down the Neo alongside his own product, he was looking for something specific. He wanted to understand how Apple's approach to a budget laptop stacked up against everything Framework stands for. The Teardown was not about declaring a winner. It was about understanding two very different philosophies competing for the same customers, especially students and schools who need affordable machines that can actually last. When Patel cracked open both machines, the contrast was immediate and striking. Inside the Framework laptop, every single component wears its identity. Plainly, labels mark each part, telling you exactly what you are looking at and where it connects. The design language speaks to intention. Someone building this machine wanted the next person who opened it to feel confident, to know what goes where without needing a manual or a guess. The real tell is in the connectors. Framework uses pogo pins throughout the internal layout. These are spring-loaded contact points that let you swap hardware in and out without fiddly cables or delicate plastic clips. You just lift a part out and press a new one in. The physical design itself communicates that swapping components should be simple, quick, and something any owner can manage. Then there is the MacBook Neo. Patel describes its internals as the complete opposite. The main board is noticeably smaller, which is impressive engineering on its own. Apple has packed tremendous computing power into a remarkably compact space. But that compactness comes with a trade-off. There is no clear labeling system inside, no modular connection points staring back at you, inviting you to make changes. The design language here says something different. It says this machine was built to stay exactly as it left the factory. Two companies, two completely different philosophies, expressed through nothing more than how they chose to arrange the parts hidden beneath the keyboard. One layout invites exploration and change, the other prioritizes compact efficiency. Neither approach is accidental. Each internal architecture reflects a deliberate choice about what these laptops are meant to be. When you start looking at what you can actually fix on these machines, the MacBook Neo puts up a surprisingly decent fight in some areas. The touchpad comes out without much struggle. Same story with the battery and the speakers. If one of your ports gets damaged, you can swap in a replacement instead of junking the whole machine. That is genuinely useful, and it represents real progress for Apple. But then you hit the hard limits. The RAM and storage you select at checkout are soldered in place. There is no coming back from that decision later. Whatever configuration you buy is what you are stuck with for as long as you own the laptop. And if you crack the screen, you are looking at replacing the entire top assembly which means the whole lid has to go. The framework laptop takes a fundamentally different approach to component access. The cooling system can be serviced. Memory modules pull right out, storage drives swap in minutes. Even the processor stays upgradable, because you can pull the mainboard and slot in a new one, while keeping everything else intact. The screen is particularly clever in how it just slides out of the chassis when you need to replace it. These are not abstract differences, they translate directly into how long a machine stays useful, and what happens when something eventually breaks. Once the teardown was complete, Patel stepped back to look at the bigger picture. What he saw was not just a laptop, but a carefully designed entry point into Apple's ecosystem. The MacBook Neo, in his view, serves a specific purpose in Apple's broader strategy. It exists to capture new users at the moment they are deciding which computing platform to commit to. Patel put it plainly, a big part of Apple's thinking is to bring in new MacBook users right from the start, and then draw them into that walled garden Apple has constructed. The price point makes that initial entry easy. $600 feels approachable for students and families who might otherwise gravitate toward Windows machines or Chromebooks. But here is where the strategy becomes more calculated. Once someone becomes a MacBook Neo owner, the constraints start to reveal themselves. The storage fills up, the processor starts to feel a little slow, the limited ports become frustrating, and at that point the user is already living in the macOS world. They have bought apps on the App Store. They have synced their photos and messages. Their workflow is built around Apple's software. That is when Apple anticipates the upgrade path kicking in. Maybe the next purchase is a MacBook Air at $1,000, or perhaps a MacBook Pro at $2,000 or $3,000. The Neo is not designed to be the computer you keep forever. It is designed to be the first step on a journey that leads deeper into Apple's product lineup. Patel understands this approach, even if it runs counter to everything framework stands for. The Neo gets you in the door, the rest of the ecosystem keeps you there. The core of framework's philosophy stands in direct opposition to the upgrade and replace cycle that defines most of the tech industry. Patel puts it simply, they want to eliminate e-waste by making products that stay useful for as long as the owner wants them. This is not just marketing speak. It is baked into every design decision the company makes. Schools emerge as a natural fit for this approach. Educational institutions operate on tight budgets and need equipment that can survive years of student use. When a laptop screen cracks or a port fails in a classroom, setting the difference between a quick repair and a full replacement is not just convenient. It is the difference between stretching limited funds and watching money disappear into the trash. Patel notes that schools need repairability, specifically to avoid both wasted money and the electronic waste that piles up when devices become disposable. But framework's vision goes deeper than just making things fixable. The company actively rejects the idea that their laptop should be a temporary stop on someone's journey to something better. Patel is blunt about this. They do not want the framework laptop to be a stepping stone on the path to other computers. If you own one, the goal is for you to keep upgrading it, so it continues working for you as long as you need it to. That philosophy shapes everything from the modular mainboard design to the standardized components that carry over from one generation to the next. This sustainability-focused alternative represents a fundamental rethinking of what a laptop should be, rather than designing for planned obsolescence. Framework designs for planned longevity. The device you buy today is not meant to be replaced in 2 or 3 years. It is meant to grow and adapt with you. When iFixit awarded the MacBook Neo a 6 out of 10 repairability score. They added an important qualifier for Apple laptop repair. They said that counts as a real comeback, and they are right to frame it that way. This is not a high score in absolute terms, but coming from Apple, a company that has spent years soldering components shut and gluing batteries in place, it represents a genuine shift. The question is why now? Some industry observers wonder if Apple might be testing the waters for a future where right to repair is more commonly signed into law. Regulations are tightened. In Europe and parts of the United States, companies that once lobbied against repair legislation are now adjusting their designs. The Neo could be Apple's way of dipping a toe into more repair-friendly waters without fully committing to that philosophy across its entire product line. Patel sees merit in both approaches, even as they stand in opposition. There's a lot to love in both of these approaches, he admits. Framework builds for longevity and upgradeability. A machine that grows with you. Apple builds for accessibility and integration. A machine that just works out of the box. Neither philosophy is inherently wrong, they simply serve different users with different priorities. What matters is that the conversation is happening at all. A few years ago, we would not be comparing any MacBook to a framework laptop on repairability. The fact that we can now have this discussion, that Apple has moved even this far, suggests the right to repair movement is having a real effect on how companies design their products.